Hello and welcome, I'm Dave. In today's lesson, we'll add search features to our Next.js full stack project with Drizzle ORM and Next Form. I'll provide a link to all resources in the description. And I'll also provide a link to join my Discord server where you can discuss this Next.js full stack project with fellow students, ask questions, and help each other out. Hey guys, a big shout out and thank you to Sentry for making this full stack Next.js educational video series possible. Sentry is defining debuggability in full stack web applications, and I consider Sentry to be an essential part of my tech stack. From error reporting, logging, and tracking to identifying performance issues with tracing, to user session replays, and much more, Sentry will help you write and ship code that delivers exceptional user experiences. Follow the Sentry links in the video description or just visit Sentry.io and use the code davegray to get 3 months of the Sentry team plan for free. In this Next.js full stack project series, I'm using the same tech stack that I've been working with on a major project at my job over the past year. For viewers, students, and subscribers that have asked what I work with on a daily basis, this is definitely the tutorial series to watch. I have our project open in VS Code, and I am looking at the user stories markdown file. I'll go ahead and hide the file tree. And after I hide the file tree, we can press Control K and then the letter V if you're using the same extension that I've shown previously, Markdown Preview. And there we can check off some user stories. So in the previous lesson, we completed our tickets form and our customer form. So we can check off number 14 and 15. All users can create and view tickets. All users can create, edit, and view customers. So we have worked past all of that. Now, in today's lesson, we'll be looking at number 5 that we see over here. It's provide easy navigation and search for customers and tickets. And we'll also get started on number 4, which is show a real-time open tickets page after the login. We won't complete this one, but we'll get started. We should complete number 5 today. And now with the user stories file closed, let's go ahead and scroll in the file tree until we find the components directory. In this directory, we want to create a new file because we need to start with a reusable component today. It's going to be called SearchButton.tsx. We'll start this file with the use client directive because we're going to use a hook in it. And then we're going to import that hook. It is the use form status hook, and it comes from React DOM. Okay, after that hook, we also want to import the loader circle that we have used previously on buttons. And then we also want to import button from shadcn. So that comes from the UI button directory. And I can see once again, it started with the dot because we're right here in the components directory, but I want to go ahead and change that to the @/app. Or it's not app actually, it's @/components/UI/button. There we go. Okay, then we want to export default function. I'm going to call this search button. It receives no params, but we'll start off by defining the status, and we'll set that equal to use form status. There we go. Okay, now we're ready for the return. And this is going to be button. And so the type is going to equal submit because we're going to use it in our form. Then we'll set disabled here equal to status.pending from the use form status hook. And then we'll set a class name. I'm going to set this equal to a width -20. Okay, now we'll actually define what goes on the button. So we're going to use a ternary here. So we'll look at status.pending from that hook. Now in the ternary, if this is true, we'll return the loader circle, and let's give it a class name and put that tailwind animate-spin class on it, and then we can close out our loader circle. But then if not, we'll go ahead and return the word search. So when it is actually searching, we'll only see the loader circle. I'm not including another word on the button like I have in the past. And when it's not, we'll have the word search. So let's go ahead and save that, and we have completed our search button. Now let's move up in the file tree to our customer segment that's inside the RS route group, and then there's customers. We won't need to go into the form directory this time. We just want to be in the customer segment. And let's create a new component here, and we'll call this customerSearch.tsx. This does not need the use client directive. We extracted the search button that does need to be a client component. So here we can just start with our component, and we're going to import form from Next.js.Form. Now this is worth a quick discussion because you might ask, why would we use this, or why does Next.js have this instead of the typical HTML form element? Let's quickly look at the docs. I'm in the Next.js docs. I'm not going to dive into all of the detail, but really this one sentence wraps up why we want to use the Next.js form component. And it says, it's useful for forms that update URL search params as it reduces the boilerplate code needed to achieve the above. And that's exactly why we're going to do it. We're going to submit some search params back to our server component. It's going to read those params, and it's just going to make it a lot easier. You'll see how simple this component is. And of course, if you want to learn more about the Next.js form component, feel free to go to the docs and read all of the details. Back in VS Code, we want to import the input component, and that's going to come from @/components/UI/input. And then we want to import the search button component that we created. So import search button from @/components/search-button. And now we're ready to begin the function. So we'll export default function and call this customer search. It doesn't receive any params either. Then inside of this, we're going to immediately start the return. And this is going to return our form. So we'll use the form component, so a capital F. Now on the next line, I'll put the action. And we're going to submit this back to the customer's segment. So essentially, we're submitting it back to itself. And we'll be able to read the search params in that customer segment in our page.tsx that is our server component. Okay, after that, let's go ahead and put some classes on this. With Tailwind, I'm going to use flex, gap-2, items-center, and then we can close this out. Now, inside of the form component, we'll put in the input component from shadcn. I'll give it a name. I'm going to set this equal to search text. Now, the type is going to equal text, and then the placeholder, set that equal to search customers for this form. Then a class name, we'll set this equal to width full. And after that, we can just use a self-closing tag here. And then we want our search button. And it's also self-closing, and we can save. And that is how simple our search form is. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to submit that search text back to our customer segment. So essentially back to itself here inside of the page.tsx. So we need to set this component up to receive those search params. Fortunately, we have done that before. If we quickly look at our form directory and the page.tsx file there, we can see the search params we set up not only for generate metadata, but for the customer form page itself. So really, we can just copy those params because once again, we need to receive search params. So I'm just going to copy this so I don't have to retype it, go back to the page.tsx that's just inside of the customer segment, and then I'll put those params right here inside of the customers function that we have inside of the page.tsx. Now notice we have some metadata. I'm going to change this from customers to customer search for the title of the page. After that, I want to go ahead and import that customer search component. So import customer search, and that's going to come from, and I want to use the @ then I'll say /app/rs/customers/customer search. There we go. Okay, after that, let's start in on the body of the function. Right now, we're just returning an H2 here, but let's go ahead and delete that. And we want to start by getting our search text param from the URL. So we'll set this equal to await search params, and that will get the value back from the search params. And I've got a red squiggly because I see I didn't use the async keyword up here above. So we need to have export default async function, and then we won't have a problem here with the await keyword. Now quickly we can say if we do not have search text, then we just want to return our customer search component. So customer search, self-closing tag. And that's what we would expect to get if we did not submit any search params. Now we don't really need an else below because at this point we have returned the customer search component. So if we get below that, we'll know we're essentially working with an else without typing the keyword else. So here I'll just say we need to query the database, and then here we want to return the results. And of course, we'll have the customer search still above those results as well. So now we need to create our query for the database and be able to call that function right here. So now in the file tree, let's go ahead and scroll down to our lib directory. And inside of the lib directory, we have our queries directory. And here we want to create a new query for our database with Drizzle ORM. So let's call this getCustomerSearchResults.ts. Now let's start by importing the DB, and that's going to come from @db. After that, let's import the customers table. So customers, and that comes from @/db/schema. And then after that, let's go ahead and import a couple of things we're going to use from Drizzle ORM. And one is called iLike. And iLike is a very nice addition to Drizzle ORM. So if you're used to writing SQL or SQL, if you will, there is a like clause where you can search for something that is like, so you can get a partial match. But iLike is even just a little bit better because it means it's case insensitive. So that I stands for insensitive, and that prevents us from setting everything, for example, with the to lowercase method or something like that in JavaScript. So we can just use iLike. So now we'll have from drizzle-orm, and that should finish our imports. Now I'll say export async function get customer search results. Going to pass in search text, which will be a string because it comes from our URL params. And now let me go ahead and hide the file tree just so you can see it a little bit better. And now I'll say const results equals await db.select because this is a select query. Now on the next line is where I'll start chaining things with dot notation. So I'm going to say from, there we go, from customers, the customers table. Now our where clause. And here we'll use the or that we imported because we want any one of these possibilities to be true and give us a result. So this is where the search becomes powerful because we're going to have not only a case insensitive search, but we're going to look in many of the different fields with the iLike. So anything we match should bring back a result. So here I'm going to use iLike, say customers dot first name, comma, and now a template literal. And we use the % in here for kind of a wildcard match. So it could be partial. So we're not looking for maybe a string that has to start with our search text. So there could be something in front of the search text. So then I'll put in the search text. And of course, we'll also put in this % afterwards because there could be something after it. So if I just searched for AV, it would still match Dave, for example. Okay, after that, let's put a comma. And we want to do the same thing for most of the other fields for customer here. So I'm going to do Shift Alt and the down arrow. Now I can just change this one to last name, Shift Alt and the down arrow, and I'll continue to do that for all of these fields. So here's email and phone. And let me go ahead and count. How many more do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. So after phone, I'm going to switch this one to address 1, now address 2, now city, state, zip, and finally, even the notes field. So we could get a partial match in any of those. Now, after we do all of that, I still need to return the results. And that is our search query for customers. So we can match any of those things. Now, I'm noticing here that I do not have the color here for search text that I expected to have. And that is because I forgot to put the $sign in front of any of these. So I'm going to highlight the percent and the curly bracket here, use Control D to go down and select all of these at once. And then I'm going to just arrow to the spot that needs the $sign, type $sign, and there we go. So that one typo is easily fixed, and now we're using the search text param inside of all of these different clauses for a case insensitive possible match. Now let's go back to our customer segment page.tsx, and we need to import that query at the top so we can use it. So we will import get customer search results. And after that, we can get rid of our comment here that says query the database. Instead, we'll define those results, set that equal to await get customer search results, and we'll pass in that search text that we get from the input in our form. Now, after that, we're ready to return. So when we get search results, we not only want to return those results, we also want to return the customer search so we could search once again. So let's put the customer search component in here. And after that, for now, we're just going to use JSON stringify here to look at those results on the page. So we will pass those into JSON stringify inside of a paragraph, and we'll leave it at that. But that is good enough now to test this out in our project. I've got the project up and running. I am logged in, and I'm currently on the home page. So now let's click the customers icon to go to the customers page. And you can see we have a big input here, a text box, and the placeholder text says search customers. We have a search button, but since it's in a form, also if we press the enter key, it will also start the search. So I entered my name as a customer in the last video tutorial for this series. So let me go ahead and enter Dave, just all lowercase instead of how I would have entered it with a capital D. Press enter. And here is the stringified result that we got back from the database. So it did find my customer. There's another customer in here named Bob. We search for Bob. He shows up. And you can see Bob has a capital B, but the search is insensitive. So that worked. What if I search for something like I said, maybe just the AV in Dave? Let's see what shows up. So now we've got a couple of results because we got partial matches in more than one. So here is my customer. But there's also Charlie Davis up here that has an AV in his name, and that matched. But remember, it's searching all these other fields too. So let me just search for something like we see here in my street address, 555 North Street. So I could just search for ORT, for example. And it pulled up my customer once again because it was a partial match of the address. So anything that it matches in any of those fields will bring back that user as a result. So this is working as expected. Okay, back in VS Code now, I want to show the file tree, and we need to create a ticket search just like we did a customer search component. So I'm going to go ahead and close that customer directory, open up the tickets directory, and here is the page.tsx, and we want to create that file just next to it. So I'll call this component ticketsearch.tsx. Now, I did close that customer directory, but really I want to be able to click on that customer search file because really the contents of the file are so close. If you wanted to, you could make a reusable component and just pass in the word customers, for example, or tickets, and probably use the same code for both. But I'm going to create a separate one. So I'm just copying all of this code that's in customer search. I'm going to go to the ticket search component, paste it all in. And let's just change a couple of things, really. So instead of customer search, it's going to be ticket search. And instead of customers, it's going to be tickets. And down here, we're going to search tickets. So I'm going to press Control D on all three of those. I'm just going to change customer to ticket. Now notice I'm using an extension that understands the casing that I'm using. So even though I might have typed a capital T here for ticket search, it knew that it was lowercase here as well. And I have a short YouTube video on that, but it's about trying to think of the name of the extension. It's Case Preserve is the extension you want to search for. I think it has a longer total name than that, but essentially it lets you change these while keeping the case. And you can also do it in a longer way with regex. It's just easier with the extension. Okay, so saving that, and we've already created our ticket search component. Now it's going to submit to the tickets segment. Here we have /tickets, and that means the page.tsx that we have inside of tickets, just like we changed the one inside of customers. So let's go ahead and make some changes here. So instead of tickets in the metadata, it's going to be ticket search. At the top, we have a few imports to make. So we will go ahead and import ticket search, and I'm going to have that come from @/app/tickets, if I remember right. Oh, I skipped the group route, the RS. There we go, /tickets/ticket search. There we go. Okay, after that, we have a couple of queries that we want to import, but we haven't created those queries yet. And I did say a couple because we're going to actually have some default results that show on this page, even if we don't search for anything. Okay, I want to go back to the customers page.tsx, and we're once again going to use these search params. So the exact same ones, we can copy this, Control C, then come back to the page.tsx here inside of tickets, and I can add those params right here inside of the tickets function. So once again, we have search params. I can get rid of the return with the H2, and as you guessed, we might want to destructure search text here as well. So we get the search text that comes from awaiting search params. And once again, we don't have the async keyword up here, so let's go ahead and add that. And now no issues with the await keyword. So now, if we don't have search text, I'm going to put some curly brackets here, and this is where we would query default results. So we'll have one query that goes there, and then we want to return, and here inside of these parentheses, I'll put in a fragment just to get ready for what we're going to return in the future. So here we'll have our ticket search component, and then we'll also have a paragraph, and here we would have those default results. So I'll have just JSON.stringify for now. And we need to pass something in here, I guess, so a string will work. But this is just a placeholder for now. So matter of fact, just to remind me, I'll just put placeholder, because we're going to replace that with the query results that we get right here. Okay, so that's if we don't have any search text. That's the default. But otherwise, then here we would query search results, and then of course we would return those search results right here. So let's save this much, and let's create those queries that we need once again in the lib directory. So let's scroll down where we have that lib directory and our queries directory inside, and we're ready to create a new file. Let's call this first query get open tickets.ts. And at the top, we will import DB that's going to come from @DB. Then we'll import both tickets and customers. And that's going to come from @/DB/schema. So we got both tables. Now I need also to import equals, which is EQ, from Drizzle-ORM. Now I'll have export async function get open tickets. Now inside this function, we'll define results, set this equal to await db.select. And now we can say what we want to select. And we're going to be a little picky here. But before I do that, let's go ahead and complete the rest. And then we'll come back because we're going to get results from both the tickets and the customers table here. So then I'm going to say from tickets, but the where clause will come after a left join. So we join the tables here to get results. This is where we'll pass in the customers table. We'll say equals, and we're going to say tickets.customer ID equals customers.id. So that joins the tables together for this. Oh, I need to come down after that, not after the curly brace. There we go. Now the where clause. Here we'll have equals tickets.completed is false. That's what I'm looking for. So where the tickets are still open, essentially. Now we can get the data that we want to display on the page in our table. So let's go with ticket date. We could name this anything we want to. So we didn't previously have something named ticket date. So this is going to get ticket.created at. After that, we can get title, which is tickets.title. And before I think I said ticket. So the table is tickets with an S at the end. And first name is customers.first name. And then last name, customers.last name. Then email, customers.email. And the tech, the tickets.tech. Now these are the things we want to display in our table. And this is a relational query. So because we have the customer ID in the tickets table, we can link it back to the customers table and we can get results from both. Now, after we have those results, we still need to return the results from this function. So there is our getOpenTickets function. Now let's create our second query, and that's going to be called getTicketSearchResults. So another new file, say getTicketSearchResults.ts. I want to go back to the getOpenTickets file, and I'm just going to copy everything, Control-C, and I'm going to go to the getTicketSearchResults, paste it in. We're going to have to make some changes. This query is a little bit longer because we're once again going to use ILike and match multiple fields if we can. But we'll start off with many of the same things. So we're going to import the database. We're going to import tickets and customers. Now, besides equals here at the top, we also need ILike and or from Drizzle ORM. Now, this function is going to start out much the same, but we need to change the name. So we can have this say get ticket search results. And now here it's going to accept search text as a param, and that is a string. Okay, the results, the select part of this is all the same. We still want the same fields in the results because we're going to display them in the same table no matter which query they come from. So it's still going to come from tickets. It's still going to join with the customers table just like we did. But the where clause changes quite a bit. So this is where we want to delete this equals in here. And instead, we want to put our or. And now on new lines, we'll use our ILike. So we'll have ILike and have tickets.title. And this is going to be like, and we can use a template literal once again, use our partial match % here, and then insert search text. This time I remember to use the $ first, and then put another % for partial match, even before or after. Again, the reason that AV matched Dave and Davis, for example. Okay, after that we need a comma, and we have several of these. So I'm going to once again count down how many I need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 more. So Shift Alt and the down arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we're ready to change some of these out. So now I want tickets dot description and tickets dot tech. Now the rest of these we're actually going to match in the customers table. So I want to select all of the tickets, Control D, switch these to customers. So now we can change these other fields. And actually we could probably look in our customers query where we had these matching already. There we go. And we could get all of these, bring them down. However, I'm not going to match the customer's notes in the ticket search. I mean, you could, there'd be nothing wrong with that, except that seems like it's related specifically to a customer note, and it would be something I'd look for more in the customer search. If you want to include it, you can, but I don't think I want to. So Control C for all of those, and we'll come back here. Let's just go over these, paste in what we had in that other previous query. So now you see where we're getting a partial match from some of the tickets fields, and then once again in many of the customers fields here. But remember, the results are going to be from the tickets table with some of the customer data mixed in here. And then at the end, we return results. So that completes our getTicketsSearchResults query. Now let's scroll back up in the file tree to the page.tsx in that tickets segment, and we can complete what we need. We need to import both of those queries now. So we want to import get open tickets. Then we also want to import get ticket search results. And we can use both of those below here. So if we do not have any search text, this is where we want to get the open tickets. So here we can define results, set this equal to await get open tickets. And we don't have to pass anything in. We know we want all of the open tickets. Down here, where if there is search text and we're querying search results, we'll define results differently. So results equals await get ticket search results, and here we pass in our search text. And then finally, we're going to once again return, and I'll have a fragment here, and inside this fragment we want to have our ticket search component, and then we also want to have a paragraph where we're going to stringify those results. So json.stringify, and we pass in results. Close that out with the curly brace and save. And now we're ready to test our ticket search feature. I'm back in the application and I'm still on the customer search page where we had left it. Let's go ahead and click the ticket icon here at the top, and we should navigate to the tickets page. Oh, and we have that placeholder. I forgot to change that out. So we're going to want to definitely change that. Instead of showing any results from that get open tickets, we're showing the placeholder. Quickly back in VS Code. Let's look for that. Here is placeholder. Let's pass in those results up here in this JSON stringify instead of that placeholder that I had left. Okay, now back to the page, and we have all of the tickets here because all of the tickets we have in there, for example, so far are open. I don't think we've closed any of those out. So we have a full page of results here, an array, of course, that has an object for each ticket. But we could search for any individual ones. So let's once again search for the AV in my name, and I'll press enter. And let's see what we get back. So we've got several tickets here now. So what did we match? We've got ticket for Charlie Davis, and then we've got another ticket here for Charlie Davis. That's 2, and a third ticket for Charlie Davis. And then finally, we have one it looks like for Jane Smith, but it matched the tech, and my email address here is in there for the tech for Jane Smith. This is one of the examples we created, I believe. So there we have a match that came from a different field. So just for example, we could also look for something like the ANE that's in Jane, search and see what comes up, because that should also possibly match some other things, but we definitely have Jane's tickets here, and maybe that's all we have, but we have 3 or 4 of those as well. So you could search for anything you want to, but it's essentially working the way we intend it to. So we're getting a partial match from any one of those fields we included in the search. And now that we've added our search feature for both customers and for tickets, we want to add a little bit of navigation, or really change the basic navigation that we have so it's even just a little bit nicer. And one of those things is this tickets page. Since it has default data and shows the open tickets, we want to make it the home page. And we can do that in a couple of ways. I'll show you what I'm going to do for it, but we can also, of course, get there by clicking on the tickets icon, and then it loads in the default results from that query. So we see everything here. But you know, when we click on the light and dark mode, we get this little menu. That would be nice on the customers. Right now, it just takes us to the customer search page. But if we were to click on that and have a nice little menu to choose whether we wanted to go to the search customers page or enter a new customer, that would be very convenient for everyone. So let's make these changes, and then we will have completed that user story number 5. Back in VS Code, let's scroll down to the components directory, and let's click on the mode toggle that we're using for light and dark mode. Now, the component I want to create is very close to this, but it's not quite the same. We can use it for basically anything else, like we're going to for the customer search choice or to go to a new customer. However, it's not exactly like the light and dark mode, so I'm not going to copy this entire file and make changes, but I'm going to copy at least a couple of the imports here, and then we'll create a new component. So in this same directory, we've got one called nav button. Let's create another new one here, similar, nav button menu.tsx. Now here we'll start off with a type. Let's import type. This is going to be a Lucid icon type. Comes from Lucid React, and that way we can pass in any icon we want to this reusable component. I'm going to paste in the imports that I copied from that mode toggle. So we had button and then all of the drop-down menu choices. But then I also want to import link from next/link. Okay, with those imports in place, we're ready to create our props type. So let's say type props equals, here I'm going to have an icon passed in, but I want to rename it with a capital I icon. So the prop type that I'll pass in has the lowercase, then we rename it to the uppercase version. And actually, this is wrong. I'm going to do that in the function. This needs to be the Lucid icon type that we just imported. There we go. Now, label, simply a string, and choices. So here we'll have an object. This will be a title, which is a string, then an href value, which is also a string, and this is going to be an array of choices. So each choice will be an object, and they'll be inside of an array. So those are our props. Now let's start with the function. So I'm going to say export function nav menu, or I'm sorry, nav button menu. And then inside of this, we will have the icon, and this is where I'll rename it to the uppercase icon. I was just ahead of myself before. We'll also pass in the label, and we'll pass in the choices. And then, of course, after that, we need to have the props here. And we're ready to start the function with our curly braces. Scroll for a little bit of room. Let me also go ahead, Control B to hide the file tree. And now I'll immediately start the return. And this is where we structure the drop-down menu. So capital D for drop-down menu. So we open that, and of course we have the closing tag as well. We have a drop-down menu trigger, and this is as child as well. And then after that, we're going to have a button, capital B for button. Now it's going to have a variant that I'm going to set equal to ghost. Size can be equal to icon. Then class name equals rounded dash full, because we have those circular icons when we mouse over them, at least we see the circle. After that, I can close out the button there, and inside the button, I want to put that icon, whatever icon is passed in. Let's give that a class name that will match our others. So we have H dash. Now let's put in a bracket and specifically say 1.2 rem. And then let's do the same with width. W dash bracket 1.2 rem. There we go. And then we can close out the icon. Now after that, let's put in a span, and class name equals SR only, which stands for screen reader only. Then we'll just pass in the label for the screen reader. Okay, so that is the drop-down trigger or drop-down menu trigger, pardon me. And after the drop-down menu trigger, we actually have the drop-down menu content. So drop-down menu content, and here we'll say align equals end. Now inside of this, I'm going to map over the choices that are passed in. So choices.map, we'll have an individual choice, and I can use another parentheses here. Now inside of this map, we're going to have drop-down menu items. And this is kind of what's documented on shadcn for a drop-down menu. We're actually using the shadcn components. We'll set the key equal to choice.title and have this as child as well. And inside of this, since we set the as child, we can have our link. Here we'll set the href equal to choice.href. And then for the link itself, we'll put in the choice.title. And that should complete our component. So what we're doing here is creating a reusable component that will let us pass in choices and whatever icon we want, and we can use that. So if anything comes up in the future that we want to use it for besides the customer choices in the header menu, we'll be able to do so. Okay, back to the file tree now, and let's find our header over here in the components directory. And we'll scroll to the top and import our new component. So import nav button menu. And now we can scroll down further and use it. It looks like I want to Alt-Z to wrap this over and then Control-B to hide the file tree once again. We'll scroll down to, let's find the mode toggle. That stands out. It's an interesting word, so easy to see. So this is going to replace, our nav button menu is going to replace our customer's nav button that we have right here. So before we replace it, let's just insert it above it, and then we can remove it after the fact. So we'll have nav button menu. Now we'll pass in the icon prop, and that is users round. I believe that's what we had below for this one. Yep, users round. After that, pass in a label. We'll set this equal to customers menu. Then we'll pass in choices. Let's set this equal to, here we have our curly brackets, and then let's put in our array of choices so we can have objects here. Let's start our first object. The title will be search customers, and the href is going to be another string, of course, slash customers. That will take us to that search customers page. Now let's put in a comma, and we could, of course, Shift Alt and the down arrow, copy that down. And then we'll just change some values here. So instead of search customers, this is going to be new customer. And the href would be slash customers slash form to take us to that customer form. And that, of course, not passing in an existing customer would give us the ability to enter in a new customer. After that, let's just close out that component we created. And now we've added the new nav button menu and delete the previous one. Now, before we go test this out, I want to make one other change, and I'm going to make it quickly, and we might decide to change this later on. But essentially, we want the home page to be the ticket search page. So without deleting our existing home page component here, let's instead delete the metadata, and we can import in redirect, and that comes from Next Navigation. And we can just create a redirect here, leaving our home page in case we decide, or our stakeholder, the owner of the computer repair shop, decides he wants something else on the home page, or does want people to go to the home page instead of seeing the open tickets, but currently requested the open tickets, and that does make sense. So for now, let's put in this redirect. And if at some time we actually want to get rid of this page altogether, remember, we would need to go back into our kind settings and change where we are sent to after that login if this didn't exist. Right now, after a login, a successful login, we would be sent to this page, which would in turn redirect us. So let's put in the redirect. And let's redirect to /tickets, which will take us to the tickets search page. Okay, with all of that in place, let's go back to the app and check it out. I'm back in the application and I believe I'm where we left it on the customer search page. Let's click the home icon and see where we go. We get redirected to the tickets page. So there's all of the open tickets. Of course, we're not displaying those the way we will in the future yet, but we do know we are receiving the data. So that works as expected. Likewise, if we click the tickets icon here, we go to the same page. Now let's click the users icon. Now we have a nice little menu. So we could create a new customer or search customers. Let's go to the search customers page. And there we are. If I search for Dave and press enter, we get my user that is in there as a customer. Okay, after that, let's go ahead and choose new customer. And now we go to the new customer form where we could enter in a new customer. So everything is working as expected. And now as I navigate back to the tickets page and we see all of these open tickets, in the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to display and interact with this data using React Table. A quick shout out to my patrons. Holy Coder is a progress provider. Sean Lynch and Gregory Perry are senior patrons. And all of my junior patrons, Isaac, Will, Stacy, Abe, Ernie, Javier, Michael, Heath, Malik, thank you all so very much. You're helping me reach my goals. And if you'd like to learn more about my Patreon, check it out at patreon.com/davegray. Remember to keep striving for progress over perfection. And a little progress every day will go a very long way. Please give this video a like if it's helped you. And thank you for watching and subscribing. You're helping my channel grow. Have a great day, and let's write more code together very soon.